We're almost ready. There we go. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the August 13th, 2019 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. If you would please rise and join us. We're going to begin our meeting as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and a pledge. Tonight, providing our prayer is our property assessor, John Isbell. And John, tell us a little bit about your background, especially I know you've gone through a couple of programs, and then please begin our prayer for us.
All right. I've had the pleasure of serving as the assessor of property since 2004, and I have represented Sumner County at both the state and national levels, and enjoy a great career serving the citizens of Sumner County and this exceptional city of Hendersonville.
Thank you. Please join John and the rest of us in prayer.
Heavenly and gracious Father, we come before you tonight with grateful hearts. Father, we're grateful for this exceptional city that we call home. Father, we're grateful for this nation, the freedom that you have granted us. And Father, we pray right now for wisdom as this body deliberates the decisions that will affect each and every citizen in this city. Father, we pray for wisdom upon them and for patience as they go through the decision-making process. And Father, we pray for our warriors that protect us each and every day, both locally and abroad. Father, we pray for our first responders, our EMS, our fire, our police department, Lord. We are grateful for the protection that they give us, Father, and we pray for protection upon them. Father, we pray a covering over their families as they let them go each day to do their jobs. Now, Father, be with us tonight. Guide us, direct us, give us your wisdom, and may everything we do glorify your name. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
John, thank you so much. If you would please remain standing and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Jeff, are we still okay? Okay. I need to entertain a motion to accept the agenda. We have a motion and a second. I need to ask that we remove items C and H. Both of those have my name on them, so I'm going to withdraw those. And Alderman Woodcock, I believe you're going to withdraw something, but go ahead if you'd like to explain it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The developers of Anderson Park have requested to remove their item from the agenda tonight and add it in 2 weeks. I agreed to do that as the sponsor with the understanding that the public hearing, since it was advertised, will be open tonight, remain open until the next meeting, so that citizens can speak tonight if they so wish, or they could wait and speak next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Those have just been withdrawn. That's going to change our agenda, but does not require action by this board. Alderman Edwards.
Yes, I would like to move to add to the agenda ordinance 2019-35. Ms. Franklin has provided copies to everybody, and we can place that wherever you prefer.
Should we make that item M, as in Mary?
Sure.
And that's 2019-35. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Was an ordinance amending 2019-22 and appropriating $25,000 for the police department to purchase replacement license plate recognition camera.
Okay, we have a motion to add an item to the agenda.
Second.
And a second. Does anybody wish to speak on that specific motion? I need you to raise your hand because I've got a couple lights here. All those in favor of adding ordinance 2019-35, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. We have that addition. Alderman Robertson.
I had another...
I'm sorry, Alderman Edwards. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just one more. As to the public hearing, I would ask that be within the same parameters and restrictions as citizens' comments, time as well as rules.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
And a second. Anybody wishing to speak on that item? All those in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Alderman Edwards, anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yes, I would like to include item K, L, A, B, and C under other agenda items as consent items where that we can vote on them in toto.
Okay.
And I so move.
Okay, I appreciate we have a motion. And a second. Alderman Robertson, could you explain that again, keeping in mind that we've removed item A?
No, I don't want to do
Alderman Robertson?
Yeah.
You want to group which ones?
I want to group K, which is Resolution 219-49,
Okay,
and the resolution, the next item, both by Alderman Woodcock, 2019-15. These are just pretty much housekeeping that staff has recommended approval. And then also under other agenda items, A, B, and C, unless there's objections, to
Okay.
move them to consent items.
okay. K, L, and then A, B, and C.
I'm sorry, it's K, L,
Okay,
and then under other agenda items, A, B, and C.
okay. Second. Okay, so we do already have a motion, a second, am I correct, Kay? Okay. If we did that, Alderman Robertson, how would you feel about taking up item M after J, and then we would finish the night with the consent items?
That's fine.
Okay.
I have no objections
Okay.
to that.
So, does anybody wish to speak on that? Alderman Brown?
I do object to that because there is, on the other agenda items, I would like to see those taken individually because there's one of them I would like to speak to.
Okay, I'll withdraw.
Would you want to withdraw just part of that, or would you want to withdraw all of that?
I don't want any objections.
I'm
if
good with
there's-
K and L. I just don't want A, B, and C.
I'll withdraw it all.
Okay.
We'll just go through the
Okay,
full,
Thank you.
okay. Alderman Robertson, anything else?
no, sir.
Okay. Alderman Woodcock, sorry, I ran
Yeah.
past you a second ago.
No, it was my fault. I forgot to mention, just make sure that we do re-advertise the public hearing for the next meeting. Just be
Absolutely.
on that public record. Thanks.
Absolutely. Alderman Brown, I pushed you out of the queue when you spoke there. Did you have something else for the agenda?
No, sir. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Okay. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add item H to the agenda. I'm sorry, not item H, item J to the agenda pursuant to 202-12.
We have a-
And also would like to add an announcement immediately following the vote on the agenda, please.
Okay, so do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I see what you're talking about, item J. And then what's the announcement?
Just have a announcement from Ward 2.
And that would be where?
We'll do it immediately following the acceptance of this agenda.
Alderman Cunningham, you made the second. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay with the timing of those? Anybody wish to speak on those? All those in favor? Thank you. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. I have turned on and turned off a couple lights. I apologize if there's somebody else that wants to make a motion to change the agenda. And I've forgotten myself as well. I need to add under presentations, a presentation to recognize the senior citizens of Hendersonville.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. So here's where we are, I believe. So next, we have a announcement from Ward 2, and then we're going to have actually 3 presentations. Then we're going to have a public hearing. We're going to have the approval of 2 minutes, committee reports. Then we do not have item A under ordinance and resolutions. We have B, we do not have C. We have D, E, F, G. We do not have H. We have I, J, K, L. Then we have M, and then under other agenda items, we have A, B, and C. If I got that all. All those in favor of accepting our amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, I get to do a couple of really cool things they get to do about this time of year.
I'm going to jump in the meantime.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to jump in the meantime while you do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. I have been authorized to announce by my fellow alderman in Ward 2, Pat Campbell, that as of about 4 o'clock this morning in Chicago, he and his wife became grandparents for the first time. And you may not believe this, but they would rather spend time with their daughter and son-in-law and their new granddaughter than us. And I'm going to let Pat tell the stories and tell the details, but I'll let you know one. I have seen the pictures, and the little baby is upholding the fine Campbell tradition of having good hair. She gets it honest from both sides, and so there she goes. So thank you for that indulgence, and extend a congratulations to Pat.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you, and congratulations to, we need to do a proclamation for him probably as well. Let's see, Bonnie, I see you, we have some folks there. If y'all want to come up here, that'd be wonderful. And Julie, if you could be on deck. Absolutely, thank you. Now, as you're coming up here, one of y'all needs to figure out who's going to speak. Okay. Well, absolutely. So whereas Hendersonville AARP Chapter 4443 celebrates on August 14th their 30th anniversary as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization promoting a society in which everyone ages with dignity and purpose, in which those 50 and over have the opportunity to pursue and achieve their dreams, hope, and aspirations. And whereas Hendersonville AARP Chapter number 4443 members address policies and issues that include financial security, health care, long-term care, communities where all can thrive, and ensuring that our democracy works better for all, they are disrupting the image of aging, the negative stereotypes, and the unconscious age bias. And, in the words of AARP founder Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, the human contribution is the essential ingredient. It is only in the giving of oneself to others that we truly live. That guides the Hendersonville AARP Chapter 4443, their programming, and their community service. And whereas they are initiating Let's Fill That Shopping Cart, it's an annual supply drive. They have a hand-in-hand photo exhibit and events, and they're sponsoring a free day of eye exams. They also have a meeting with speakers ranging from a champion whistler, a treasure hunter, to a world adventurer, and donating to several area nonprofits. Therefore, I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, wish to honor and proclaim Thursday, August 15th, 2019 as Hendersonville AARP Chapter number 4443, 30th Anniversary Celebration Day. I think that's wonderful, y'all, 30. And in the City of Hendersonville, and I urge all citizens to join me in congratulating them for their great service and their continued dedication to our community. Thank
We
you all
have a
so
long
much.
way to catch up to 50.
That's
though.
true, that's true. So I'm going to sit down, you go ahead.
And then will we do a group picture after?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate you allowing us to be here this evening. I have a different button on this time. I have my AARP hat on, so I wanted to thank you, Mayor Clary, for the presentation of this proclamation to the Hendersonville AARP chapter. Our actual anniversary occurs tomorrow, and we're having our celebration the day following that on Thursday, so we're basically celebrating all week long, which is the way you should do it. We're having it Thursday at the Hendersonville Senior Citizens Center on Imperial Drive. The doors are going to open to the public at 1, and the whole community is invited. The festivities kick off at 1:30. We've got an awesome band that will be our entertainment and a portion of the program. They are the Silver Notes. They're out of Nashville. They consist of 20 seniors who many of them have been professional performers and musicians during a large portion of their lives. We'll also be looking at our past and of course, our future. Since we're celebrating 3 decades of community service, we will be honoring on Thursday 3 nonprofits that our board of directors have selected, many of whom our board are here this evening. Each organization will be presented a certificate highlighting their community service and a financial gift to help continue their positive impact upon community. You'll have to attend our celebration to find out who they are, or if we're lucky enough, the media will be there and it will be mentioned in the newspaper, hopefully, or get onto social media. We appreciate who our anniversary sponsors are. They're the Hendersonville Senior Center. We appreciate Julie letting us be there during major construction and kind of after early hours. So we're excited about that. Park Place Retirement Community is making 2 luscious, with our logo out of that, beautiful sugary stuff, on 2 beautiful cakes. And the wonderful Hendersonville Utility Department and their great water, which their bottles are the best recyclable in terms of reusing them over and over and over bottles I've ever seen. And Publix. Of the issues that we addressed when AARP started nationally over 60 years ago, many of them still are current, which is kind of the way things seem to be going. AARP solely started due to retired teachers and other groups wanting access to affordable insurance, let alone any insurance for women. Then came affordable health insurance finally, and then affordable and accessible health care, and so forth and so on. We are, the Hendersonville AARP chapter, one of 5 chapters that are left in the Middle Tennessee region. We used to have about 15, and as in so many organizations, the numbers have begun to decrease, and we're hanging in there, and we have approximately, when we started 30 years ago, there were 119 members, and for the past 5 years, we have averaged 20 paid members per year, and we still continue to do major community impact. But our meetings have always been open to the public. We don't require that you be an AARP member, and we encourage everybody to come, and age does not matter. What's good for one is good for all, and we all should be accessible and collaborative. We're an active people willing and able to make a positive difference in our communities. Our meetings and community works from fraud and scam prevention, extremely important these days, driver safety. A number of our members have taught the driver safety programs, assistance with financial security and planning for the future, and AARP does free income tax preparation for seniors, and you don't have to be a member for that either. The caregiving information and support, insurance, doctors, hospitals, and prescription drug are issues and battles for people of all ages, encouraging healthy lifestyles, disrupting dementia by focusing on brain-healthy activities and living lifestyles, focusing on community, livability, and safety. Does this sound like a lot of things you all are working on? You're exemplifying AARP values, so thank you. Fighting fraud, like I said, showcasing experienced workers and related learning to making communities more livable for all ages. A number of our chapters, including me, have held appointed regional and statewide positions, have been trained lobbyists and registered with the state. We have to go through the same training that elected legislators go through to be a registered lobbyist. Have had opportunities to speak on many panels and forums, and have helped develop new programming directed at seniors but accessible to those of all ages. Knowledge is power. The phrase seniors is going by the wayside. We are now, as they say, we are disrupting aging. We're a disruptive group, and making our own unique way through society and leaving it hopefully a better place for all. So we thank you again. I know all of you have hopefully received an email to attend Thursday at the Senior Center. It should be an interesting day. Mayor Clary is going to repeat his performance from today.
I'm glad you said from today. I wasn't really sure what I was performing. Hey, where you can take pictures, can you do this for me? Let's get a picture of everybody.
Wherever you want.
Okay, let's do this. We'll come over here.
Are we all in it?
Are we good? Draw in here. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you on Thursday. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I have another proclamation. You just heard Bonnie talk a little bit about it. Our senior citizens are valued members of our society, and they contribute a great deal to the communities across the United States as well as our own community. With improved health care and more years of productivity, our citizens are reinforcing their historical roles as leaders with a sense of purpose as individuals and as a growing nation. And whereas many older Americans are embarking on second careers, giving younger citizens a fine example of responsibility, resourcefulness, competence, and determination, whereas more than 4.5 million senior citizens are serving as volunteers in various programs and projects that benefit every sector of society. They make their presence felt by finding where a need exists and graciously and successfully filling those needs. And whereas for all their contributions throughout their lifetime and for all they continue to accomplish, we owe older citizens our thanks and our heartfelt salute. We can best demonstrate our gratitude and esteem by making sure that our communities are good places in which to mature and grow older, places in which older people can participate to the fullest while leading lives of independence and dignity. Now, therefore, I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim August 21st as National Senior Citizens Day, and I call upon the citizens to observe this day with appropriate reverence for our older citizens and to educate ourselves on how to empower, support, and assist them. Julie, I appreciate you for being here. We do this every year, and I tell you, I think more and more people notice every year, so I appreciate you. Can you say a little bit more about what's going on?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all for the opportunity to talk about seniors. That is my passion, as you all know, and I say this often, and I say it loud, and I will continue to do so as long as God gives me a voice. I believe senior citizens are the forgotten lot in life. We talk about everybody else but seniors, and I feel like we need to put them on a pedestal, because if it weren't for what they've done to pave the way for today, we wouldn't be able to have meetings like this. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. So I truly, personally, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate your time and your indulgence in letting me talk to you about this. As what he alluded to, you all know we've been under construction since February the 2nd. But it is really getting places, and I truly want to thank Keith and his department for really holding their feet to the fire. And a lot of people don't understand when, Jamie does, we've had this conversation, a lot of people don't understand HUD grants. I do, because I worked in the construction business and the real estate business for a long time. So I know that they get to tell you when, where, how, and who. And unfortunately, we've been victim to that. So I just want to say to everyone that will watch this on TV that the city has done everything within their power to make this more expedient. And we, as senior citizens of Hendersonville, appreciate what they've done. They wrote the grant. You know, we are in their building. They maintain it. They do everything for seniors. And this is one part of the government that doesn't forget about our seniors. And I truly want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Julie. Julie, one more thing. Can you tell us who can be involved in your programs?
Are you there yet, Jamie? With a show of hands, how many in the room are 50 or over? Okay, I will have applications ready for each and every one of you tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. You just come down to the senior center. And I went to high school with him, so I know he is.
You got a lower certified rate.
So,
The effective age.
unfortunately, the government tells us that at age 50 we become senior citizens, but we get nothing for it until we're 60. That's a bummer, but I didn't write those rules. But any of you who ever would like to come to the center, we're at 197 Imperial Boulevard. We would love to see you. We would love to have you, give you a tour. But please wait until our construction is over. Thank you all.
Julie, thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have a presentation from our Seminole County Property Assessor, and that's John Isbell.
Couple of hard acts to follow. I had the opportunity to do a presentation to the senior citizens, and quite an inquisitive group, and a lot of life. Let me bring this up real quick, and I'm going to take advantage of their eye screening when they have that, because my vision has gone. There we go. All right.
It's close.
All right, what I want to talk to you about tonight is just kind of give you a summary of where we are with the reappraisal. We've just completed the final phase, which is what I call the citizen's voice. Citizens have the opportunity, once they receive the assessment change notices, to call our office and discuss those values. Knowing the growth numbers that we had this year, we worked real hard to get those assessment change notices out a month early to make sure that citizens had as much time as possible to call us and to inquire. We have finished that process. We finished the informal process as well as the County Board of Equalization, which is the first formal process of the appeal cycle. And now we're looking forward where we have it at the state level, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. But what I want to do is just give you some numbers. This is generic for all the cities, so I'm going to kind of go right past the other cities and focus on the county and then also on Hendersonville. When you're looking at it, growth by jurisdictions, you see Sumner County came in on an average growth of 36.20%. You saw that commercial was up about 25%, residential was up about 40%, and you can look on down through there. Green belt on forestry, you see that at 76.21. That doesn't mean that their values went up 76%. We had some properties that went on to Greenbelt under the forestry program, so that increased those numbers. For all of the Greenbelt programs, the use values, which is what the farmers pay taxes on, that went up by a state mandated 30%. So you'll see the Greenbelt agriculture came in at 29.9%, which is right with the state. Now, our public utilities have not released their numbers yet. So this is basically an estimate. Public utilities are those properties that are valued by the Office of State Assessed Properties, and then they do the allocations to each city based on a pro rata share of the public utilities. And then your tangible personal property, that's basically the business assets that are taxed for the businesses. So you would add that number to our commercial and industrial number to find out where we are with commercial business in Sumner County and so forth. So let's scroll past. We'll kind of go through it quickly. Gallatin was about 36.22%. Goodlettsville was 29.01%. And then Hendersonville experienced growth around 31.45%. You'll see that commercial was about $591 billion at 20% growth, or $1 million, I'm sorry, and then residential was $1.5 billion with about a 38% growth. You'll see that farms, those increased by 59%. We had some more properties that switched from the agricultural, they came out of Greenbelt and just stayed in as a farm classification. Again, on this one, the public utilities is an estimate, and tangible personal property is the number for the businesses. So, Millersville was 36.4%. Mitchellville went up about 41%, small county, or I'm sorry, small jurisdiction. Portland, 38%. And rounded out with Westmoreland, 26.82%, and White House, 41.77%. A lot of growth going on up in White House right now. So let's talk a little bit about certified tax rates. After I finish the County Board of Equalizations, we are mandated to calculate a certified tax rate. Jurisdictions do this differently. Some will calculate it prior to the county board, some will calculate it after the county board. Some apply what they call an appeals allowance, where they estimate what the reduction is going to be from the county boards. What we do to get the most accurate number is wait until the county board closes. This year, county boards closed on July 31st, which we were very pleased that we were able to get it all done within June and July. So these are what your certified tax rates look across the county. Sumner County is coming in at $1.92.84 cents, and then Hendersonville is coming in at 59.31 cents. And this body will take up those certified rates in their deliberations. And you can glance at the rest of them. That's kind of where they're hitting across. A lot of these are equalized. Anytime a city borders a county, it's a split jurisdiction, such as Goodlettsville is part of Davidson County, as well as part of Sumner County. they have to calculate what they call an equalized rate, where they balance the rates between the two counties. So where does a penny fall? This is a big item of discussion. I get many calls a day from different people saying, okay, tell me what a penny's worth. The quick explanation of a penny value is that is basically what each penny of that tax rate generates in revenues for the city and the county. Now, I put up there, it's a gross number. The number that I give is just a straight calculation. Some finance departments add a collectability factor to it. Some will factor out other programs such as a TIF program or a pilot program. Some factor in errors and omissions in the assessments as well as appeals. Many different things you can factor in on that penny. Sumner County, every penny that comes in is worth about $621,000. Hendersonville, every penny that comes in is worth about $219,000, almost $220,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of where those pennies hit. If you look at Mitchellville, every hard-earned penny they bring in brings in $364. So it's a very small city.
Hey, John.
Yes,
If I
sir.
could interrupt you real quick. Rob and I have been talking a lot, and we feel like for us it's more like 211,000. Does that make sense when you talked about some of those other parameters in there?
Once you add in collectability factors, some are at, I think the county is doing a 2% or maybe a 2.5% collectability. And you may see Hendersonville and Good Times see about the same thing. But that's up to the finance department to set.
Thank you.
So moving on. Let's talk a little bit about the appeals process, the citizen's voice. We work on these numbers starting January 1st. We try to get them out 1st of May, latter part of April if possible. So we spend right at 4 months calculating values for just over 76,000 properties. Started out at $4.2 billion in assessed value. It's up over $6 billion now. So a lot of growth is going on in Sumner County. Looking at our 2009 reappraisal, many of you may remember that. That was when the bottom fell out right at the end of 2008, and we had an excessively high reappraisal in 2009. Roughly $218 million in appeals after that, and that caused 5.6% value adjustment. And looking at the numbers, we had plus or minus 22,000 appeals during that time period. County board met until September during that reappraisal process. So we didn't have a certified tax rate. Well, actually, we calculated it before that. That was under the state direction and calculated the certified tax rate then. 2014 was our first reappraisal on our independent system, and we came in with a 3.95% value adjustment and plus or minus 24,000 appeals through that process, and ended up after that hitting about 155 million in appeals. 2019, right now we're sitting at about 191 million in appeals, about a 1% value adjustment, and just under 7,000 appeals in total. So we had a relatively smooth reappraisal this year, and was pleased with that. Now we're settling, working with people on their state appeals, and I'll give you an idea of where we are with that. As of right now, we've got 183 appeal cases pending before the state. Now, this goes back to 2014. I actually have appeals that are still pending in 2014. And we've got those that we're still working on. We've got 41 appeals are commercial and industrial. 142 appeals are residential. And of those 142, 42 of them are jurisdictional cases. And basically what that means is that The judge has to determine jurisdiction before he can determine value. So the citizen has to make a case why they did not go through the general channels of an appeal process, why they went straight to the state. Now, looking forward, of those 183, we've already got 90 of them in pending settlements, 86 residential properties, 4 commercial, which is an impact of the assessed value of almost $1 million.
Assuming a decreased assessed value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those are going to be decreases. And most of those residentials are in the city of Hendersonville. So we'll get those settled out pretty quick for you. Let's look at the municipalities. Right now, Hendersonville, you've got about $126 million under appeal. You got 17 commercial properties and 100 residential properties. So we'll have your residential done probably September. I think the judge called me, sent me an email 2 days ago and wanted to set up the residential parcels to go ahead and get those settled out. Commercials are far more complex. We have income statements to review, MAI statements, and various things that we go through to reach settlements with the businesses. So Hendersonville's got that, and what I do for the county is I provide them a spreadsheet of the appeals and let them know where we are with it, and that is something that I've offered for the cities. That way you'll kind of know budgetary what may be hitting your budget as far as the appeals process. I think it's important that you have a handle on that. And we can provide those spreadsheets and give you some numbers to work with. And that is basically it. Be happy to answer any questions at the board. I don't want to break protocol, but
Your presentation, you're not a citizen's comment, so we can go back and forth all night. So,
well, we can't do that, but
I don't think anybody wants to. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. John, there's 100 residentials on appeal. I saw that was pretty high compared to the other cities for rent. What was it in previous reappraisal years, do you know?
in the thousands.
Oh,
And I would tell you of that
okay.
100, about 75 are one person. 75, 80 are one person.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you for the, thank you for the presentation.
No problem. My pleasure.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, John. You may have mentioned this and I missed it, but why do you believe there were so many, such a reduction in appeals? You had 24,022 and then 7.
We got it out early, and to be quite honest, the numbers are pretty accurate. We hit all of the benchmarks for the assessment accuracy, and while we had some appeals, we didn't have a lot of appeals. People were just content.
Okay. And to help we get questions about this process, and when we try to explain it, I prefer you explain it with this hypothetical situation. Jonathan and I are neighbors. Our homes are valued at $500,000. We both received notification that our increase was the average for Hendersonville. He believed it, didn't do anything. I did not believe it. I appealed and won, and my value is the same as it was the last appraisal. The city of Hendersonville keeps the same tax rate as last year. What happens to our property tax bill? Is his higher, is mine higher, vice versa, lower?
Well,
What
if you
happens?
kept the same tax rate, the one that kept the increased number, then it's going to be higher. If your value went down, and that's assuming you don't accept the certified tax rate, that you go with the same tax rate, then you're effectively giving a tax increase to that one person.
Right. His value increase,
Yeah.
he pays more in tax, I stay the same.
Right.
If we keep the certified rate, his taxes stay the exact same because his value increased at the exact average of the increase. I appealed and won, so my taxes are now lower than last year, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Anybody else? John, thank you very much. Appreciate that explanation.
Thank
Far
you.
better than any of us can do, and appreciate your time on this. Thanks. Next, we have a public hearing to hear comments on a request by Parkside Builders LLC to rezone 21.85 acres from general commercial plan development to multifamily residential plan development, and to approve a revised preliminary development plan for Anderson Park at Indian Lake Market. The property is located east of Anderson Lane, north of East Main Street, as identified by Sumner County Property Tax Map 159, Group A, Parcel 22.00. We're going to go ahead and have this public hearing tonight, even though the item has been withdrawn. We will also have the public hearing when this item comes back to us. The only person we have signed up is Tyrone J. And Tyrone, we have the same rules on this as we do for citizens' comments. So go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
I'll just go ahead and do mine now, so I won't do it next time around. But plant the seed for you guys. I just have one thing on here. Oh, I'm Tyrone J., 1019 Minsker Farms. I was looking at the traffic study pages in the packet, and the numbers in here is what I was thinking just off the top of my head of what they would be. And I am concerned on the peak hours being in the retail zone of Walmart and the shopping center across the street and Gold's Gym, and et cetera, et cetera. We talk about so many things like the traffic light adjustments and the new systems hopefully we're going to put in soon. But with Indian Lake and Anderson Lane, there's so much going on there that the cycle lights, there's in the peak times, especially in the evening, the cycles has got to be long enough to let the cars out. And in the mornings, got to be long enough to let the cars out of the residential area. On the proposals, it talks about Calendar Lane, or is that how you pronounce it, the road behind Lowe's? Okay. It looks like they're recommending some adjustments. I don't see any adjustments for Indian Lake and Anderson, either coming off of Anderson to Indian Lake. I'm thinking in the mornings, because we do have a lot of more cars added, the peak hour 89 exit, which figure half that, or more, I would figure more than half's going to be going out to Indian Lake to get on Vietnam to go to Nashville, just assuming. So right now we got one turn lane. Is it time to think about 2 turn lanes? And can we get the developers to flip the bill on that if that's a thing up for discussion? That's all I want to say, because there's nothing on there about that. Then also in the evening, peak hours coming in. I came here around the 5:30 time frame-ish, coming over the bridge from Vietnam, over the bridge meaning the railroad track bridge to Anderson. The double turn lanes, or the single to the double turn lanes to Walmart and Home Depot, was already booked up. So what is it going to be a few years from now when everything gets built up and people coming back in from work? Is it going to be more booked up? So do we need to add, take out the center strip there and add more of a double lane? And if so, because it wasn't in the study to do something like that, and so can we get the developer to flip the bill? I'm just bringing up these couple things to give you guys a thought process a couple weeks from now or a few weeks from now to ask these guys, or is that something the city does? I don't know how the rules and things work, but if I was up there and if it was an option, I would say, hey, it looks like to me, because of the traffic flow, and also I go to Gold's Gym, and after they built the shopping center over there with Marshall's and the few restaurants and Five Below and all them, I was getting worried, and sure enough, in the evenings, to pull out of Gold's Gym at peak time, to wait forever on that light, which I know you guys are going to adjust the lights, but still, there's a lot of traffic, and it's just going to be more so with the development on the other side. So I'm for this development. I think it's a good option. When I was working in Tampa for a couple years, I did choose, I worked downtown, so I did choose the live and work downtown and walk and bike and all that stuff. And it was really nice to just get out and walk to the different restaurants and shops and walk to work. So it's a nice option. And the other question I have, which I gave to Arlene, was since these are starter home type or $250,000 range, how many kids are we talking about per school building are we going to start seeing a flow? And they were going to come back with an answer on that. But that's all I had but just so you guys can think about maybe a double turning lane coming out onto Indian Lake, and then also a double turning lane coming down from the bridge onto Anderson to extend that further. And will the developer pick up the tab? Is that an option? I don't know. I just figured I'd just bring that up for you guys to think about. Thank you so much.
And to everyone, thank you. Again, that public hearing will be open in 2 weeks as well. We'll welcome people to speak on this item then. Next, we have minutes. I entertain a motion to approve the July 23rd, 2019 meeting minutes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the July 29th, 2019 special meeting minutes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We're going to have a couple abstentions. Alderman Petrelli, Alderman Brown. Appreciate that. Next, we have citizens' comments. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per individual, and that's time that is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, not to aldermen, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office also will not be allowed. Sheldon Briner of Crooked Creek Court.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm actually kind of a little embarrassed to be here to bring up such a minor thing, but I was at the city office this morning complaining about the refuse collection. I've had damage done to one of my containers, and it's such a petty thing, but they've handled it exactly twice. I've been out of town for a month, and in this time they've damaged it. We've lived there for 12 years and never had any kind of experience like that. The lady in Public Works suggested I come to the meeting to let people know that this has taken place. So that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate the opportunity.
Could you do me a favor and write down your phone number or email address and give it to me?
Sure, I do have pictures. I do have pictures
Okay.
on my phone that I can show you if you want them.
Okay. If you could just write down your phone number or email address, and I'll get back to you.
All right.
We appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Briner. Jason DeStefano, 173 Center Point Road South.
Good evening. My name is Jason DeStefano, and I am a business owner of Green Village Recycling at 173 Center Point South in Hendersonville. I'm here this evening to provide an update on the pilot recycling program. I wasn't asked to provide this update, but I figured in terms of transparency, since the city had awarded our company with the recycling program, or the pilot program, that I would spend a few minutes providing you with the data and the details. So on July 3rd, Green Village Recycling was provided or awarded the pilot recycling extension, and we had a week to prepare to run to 830 homes and collect material in 6 neighborhoods, and we did that. We were able to move our schedule around and move some existing customers and gather our team and our trucks. Over the course of the past month, 830 some odd homes were involved in the pilot recycling program, including the fire hall, one fire hall, police station, and city hall. About 70% of the homes that were involved in the pilot recycling program actually used the service, and that was really surprising considering it was the middle of the summer. A lot of people were gone. The results were kind of surprising because a pilot program should provide data. You should know what you're paying for. So I'm here today to provide you with the data after 1 month. In the past 30 days, the 830 homes that were involved in this program recycled over 20,080 pounds. And I thought to myself, what would that represent if it were the whole city? Well, this is only about 5% of the city. This pilot program is about 5%. So you have to multiply 5% by 20 to get 100%. So if we took that 20,000 pounds and multiplied that by 20, it's easy to come up with that math. It's 400,000 pounds in a month of material that could be recycled and not go to the landfill. That's 400,000 pounds in a month. In a year, it's 4,800,000 pounds of recycling or material that doesn't go to the landfill. Now, you can be for recycling or against it, but the reality is that's 4,800,000 pounds verified through just the first month in one of the slowest months of the entire year. Your garbage contract is 5 years, so multiply that nearly 5 million pounds by 5, and you come up with 25 million pounds of material that would not go into the ground in Tennessee if you had a recycling program citywide. Now, I don't know what 4.8 million pounds looks like. I have no idea. So I Googled what the average weight of a car was, and it turns out it's about 3,000 pounds, an average car. If I divide that into 4.8 million pounds, I come up with a parking lot that would need to park 1,600 cars in a year from Hendersonville. Not only would a recycling program reduce that type of volume from landfills in Tennessee, it would save money at some point. You can vote how you want when this comes up, however you want to move forward on the recycling program, but I can tell you we'll continue to provide you with the results, and we'll continue to be transparent about how this recycling program is working. And I'll say one last thing. I can't make this plastic bottle disappear because I'm not a magician. Probably none of us are. But we can make it reappear many times through recycling. Thank you.
Cool. Jason, thank you. Tim Altizer, Saranac Trail.
I'm going to pass on my time. The agenda item was pulled, okay?
Okay, thank you. Tyrone J., Mansker Farms. Okay. Durwood Fuquay, Indian Lake Road.
I'm Durwood Fuqua. I live at 556 Indian Lake Road. I have a comment about the park as we come into the city of Hendersonville, the city by the lake. The one there just north of Saundersville Road, Saunders Ferry Road. There's a tree that's been down there for over a month. I mean, we should take pride in our city, and couldn't we cut that tree up? Don't we have chainsaws? The other comment is I live on Indian Lake Road, and I appreciate the fact that they came in and did a stormwater culvert and placed it in there, but when they paved it and rolled it with the trucks, with dump trucks. Is there a plan to put asphalt over that? And then the other comment, I do recycle with Green Village, and they do a great job, and it reduces my garbage by at least 2/3. 2/3 of what we have coming out of our house goes into recycle. And I think it's a great opportunity for the city to address what goes into the landfills. Thank you.
Mr. Fuqua, thank you. Tyrone, we skipped you while you were out. Did you want to come back, or are you finished?
Yeah, this is his comments for.
Yep.
Okay. I'll set my stopwatch as well, so I know where I'm at. Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, I'm starting my watch now. I got 6 items to talk about. First is ordinance 2019-19. That's the $100 per month for on-call pay for firefighters in Parks Department. I support this. Not only support it, but I support it 101%. Me being in IT, information technology, I'm on call a lot. And being on call is a tough deal, especially when you get calls at 3 a.m. and have to work for 3 hours and you don't get any sleep. So to ask firefighters and parks people to do what they do on call, to be ready at a moment's notice, and not to be allowed to have any fun while you're on call. You can't go out drinking. You can't go down to Murfreesboro. You got to be here. I would appreciate that you pass it, and I would like a 13-0 vote on that, or 12-0 tonight, I guess. 2019-24, the tax assessment or tax rate. Now, I understand just a few minutes ago that this is considered a first reading and all that, so I won't spend too much time on it, and I'm more confused now after talking to Arlene. But my understanding is that the gentleman in Ward 6 was wanting to reduce the amount that we were underfunded by moving in, like, for example, the hotel tax into the general area so we can bring our number down. And I believe the number at 165 was at 4 cents because I understood we were only short 610,000. Okay, so if we take the tax rate of 59 cents and we take the 211 or whatever it's going to be, 211, and we're 610 down, that's 3 cents. So if we're going to roll out the trash from the fees into the rate, which is basically a break even for residents, an increase for the business. So say easy math, it's 22 cents or somewhere thereabouts with the 211. That takes us to 81 cents plus the 3 cents for the 610. That's 84 cents. So, and I'm sure there's going to be more discussion on this because I don't understand Arlene's number that she came up with. So I'm sure you guys will talk about it tonight. I won't give the number out. But if it's 3 cents or 610 over, I'm in favor of it because I obviously was here for all the budget meetings and I understand where the numbers come from and I appreciate a lot of the things that came in on those. But if it's at this higher rate that I heard from Marlene, that means our budget's completely out of whack, or I don't understand some of the numbers, and that I would not support. We need to start cutting something. So that's enough on that. Let's see, 1 minute, 45 seconds. Okay, 2019-31. The vehicle and trailer cones. Now, I happened to be in the committee meeting talking about this, where the concept of this ordinance was about mowers and their trailers being parked on the street, and this one was over a hill, and it'd be easier to spot if you have a cone next to the trailer. Now, the thing of it is, the way this is worded, it says vehicles and trailers. It doesn't say vehicles hooked to trailers. It doesn't have more than two things. It's vehicles and trailers. It could be separate. Temporary means, okay, a visitor to my house, a resident with a car, could just be at my house for a couple hours, parking on the street. Technically, the way this reads, I need a cone. I say that there's a lot of other variables here, and then where to place the cone. You don't say, well, to place it on the logical side, which would be if you're parked on the right hand side of the road, you place the cone on the left side back bumper or something like that. It doesn't say where to place the cone.
Timer on 30 seconds.
Okay, so I say remove it, go back to committee, reword it. Rather than have a half-hour discussion up here and take a lot of time tonight, just reword it back in the committee. See, 32, 219-32. Let's see, I'm running out of time, so I'll just leave it at that. And I'll solve for 47 too, but 47's good. It's a no-brainer. 32, I wanted to say a couple things on it. If I may, just one thing.
Thank you. We're done.
Okay.
We're done. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have Finance Committee report. Chairman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our special call Finance Committee meeting tonight, and we had several things on the agenda. All members were there. Ordinance 2019-26, ordinance amending municipal code, parks and recreation regulations for sponsorships. That was passed unanimous. That was recommended unanimously. Ordinance 2019-32, ordinance amending budget ordinance 2019-22 by increasing hotel motel lodging revenue by $85,000 and designating hotel motel lodging tax expenditures. That was recommended with an amendment 3-0. to eliminate just one item that could be, which is $100,000 to reimburse the inline hockey insurance fund because it was probably not going to be needed until next budget year. Everything else was the same. Ordinance 2019-35, ordinance amending ordinance 2019-22 by appropriating $25,000 for the police department to purchase the LPR recognition cameras. That was recommended 3-0, and that's on tonight's Boma agenda. Resolutions, 2019-42, resolution authorizing the transfer of $20,000 from rent or lease assets, $7,000 and up in the Parks Department was recommended unanimously. 2019-43, resolution authorizing the transfer of $2,339.89 from the general fund to the golf course fund. 3-1, that was recommended, 3-0 was recommended unanimously. 2019-44, resolution authorizing the transfer of $150,000 from the 2018-2019 disposal service budget to the 2019-2020 asset $7,000 and up, which is for a new limb pickup truck, I believe.
Claw truck.
Claw truck, that's what, I couldn't think of the name. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2019-47, resolution to apply for a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee Foundation Healthy Places Program grant. And that grant would be worth, if we get awarded that, over $5 million for the development of the Beatty Farm, was recommended unanimously. So pray that we get that. Andy Gilley was instrumental in applying for that grant. Other items on our agenda, we reviewed the budget overage reports as of June 2019. Our sales tax analysis report, we reviewed that, and our year-over-year sales tax at the end of June came in at $589,611 year-over-year increase, or a total of $13,313,879. And that is also over our budget amount of $12,600,000 by 105.67%. Yay. Wonderful news. And then we just reviewed the fire hall breakdown and where we stood with that. And we're going to have a monthly update on the hotel motel tax as we collect that, because it looks like it's going to be more than we have anticipated. Another win for us. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. Chairman Sprouse, General Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. General Committee met tonight. We're going to be recommending to you Resolution 2019-46, dealing with the Beatty Farm Conceptual Plan, Resolution 2019-48, dealing with Final Development Plan for Durham Farms. Also going to be we have recommended Ordinance 2019-34, dealing with rezoning of property in the east side of Calendar Lane, north of Main Street. Ordinance 2019-30, dealing with amending our rules of our agenda and our rules on at our meetings. Ordinance 2019-30 is coming to you without a recommendation. Was not able to get a second.
Chairman Sprouse, finished? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Brown, Public Safety.
Thanks, Mayor. We, first of all, approved our meeting minutes from July the 9th. We secondly approved our minutes from our special call meeting on July the 23rd. Then we had a pretty lengthy discussion involving the amending of our ordinance that considers shooting fireworks. We as a committee and Police and Fire agreed that we could come to a consensus decision on limiting those in our city. Legislation will be coming in the next month or so to take a look at doing that. We also passed Ordinance 2019-35, which is the $25,000 for the police camera unanimously. That is went to Finance and is on our agenda tonight. 2019-51 is a resolution accepting a donation of a 2016 Robalo R160 boat for our police department with a value of $26,000. We've got a picture back there somewhere if somebody wants to see it, but it's a pretty nice boat. Told Chief Miller didn't want to see any bass seats in the front of it. So, resolution to declare equipment owned by the city of Hendersonville as surplus property. We passed that as well. Then we had a discussion with a recommendation from our Traffic and Parking Committee concerning speed limit reduction of 5 mile an hour on Saundersville Road around the library from stop 30 down to Ashcrest Point, I believe. So that will be coming pretty soon. So if you're going 45, it's slowed down by at least 5. If you're going 40, then maybe consider going 35 because it's going to change on you. Would also like to tell you that I told you that I would continue to update you on the horse barn. The horse barn is progressing very well. Some fencing is up, water lines are run, lighting's up. We're where we need to be right now. So, one more thing I did want to mention that I've had 2 people ask me. I've seen it on social media that there's going to be a deer culling on Indian Lake Peninsula, Ward 4 and Ward 2. That is not true. That is not happening. So if someone has said that to you, then that is not true. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Just a brief comment. We had our special called meeting of the Public Works Committee last week, and we have not completed getting our minutes properly done yet, so I'm going to ask, we'll talk about that next week. The other thing is on your agenda tonight, 2019-49 and 2050, the acceptance of dedication of the streets in the Hunt Club and in Autumn Creek was passed unanimously in Public Works, and we'll have a full report at our next meeting.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you.
Thank you.
For capital projects, we have had neither a meeting nor a chairman right now who's here. So we're going to go on to Planning Commission. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. We met on Tuesday, August 6th. Before I forget, I want everyone to know that we will have a workshop on the 20th here at City Hall at 6:30. Feel free to attend. We had several items on our agenda. Most we've already heard about and have already been to committee. The first was a final development plan for the commercial lots in phases 1 and 2 of Durham Farms. We approved the site plan for phases 10 and 11 in Millstone. I'm very excited to announce this. We had an issue a few months ago about the proposed event center at Hazel Path. That issue was resolved. We were able to approve that at our last meeting. And we considered it a minor change, so there will not be a vote at Boma. The last item was, again, we've already discussed it, the rezoning of Collender Lane and East Main Street. That is part of the Chenault Farm and will be, you guessed it, a tire store. Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Next, we have ordinance and resolutions. We do not have item A. We have item B, which is second reading of ordinance 2019-19. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 4, Chapter 3, regarding comprehensive classification and compensation plan. Alderman Brown.
That was pulled.
B?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to withdraw it?
If
I don't have
If we missed it to start with, then I will withdraw
you
it
can
at this
withdraw it
time.
at this point. Okay.
Maybe I missed it.
The sponsor has withdrawn it, so we don't have item C that was withdrawn as well. Item D, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-24. This is an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation in the city of Hendersonville, Sonoma County, Tennessee. I so move. Motion and a second. Want to sort of catch up where we are. I appreciate John Isbell, our property appraiser, being here earlier. With that reappraisal, our property tax rate went from 75.8 cents to 59.31 cents. Also, my proposal to increase the property tax for roads went from 10 cents to 7.7 cents. That is not a viable option any longer because the board voted to increase spending, and currently we need to fund an additional $703,000. That $703,000 itself requires an additional 3.33 cents, which would take us to 70.34 cents. And the 70.34 cents as a tax rate would raise $14.891 million. The math there is 70.34 times 211,000. You heard John Isbell earlier talk about 219,000. John was including property that is currently in our TIF payment. That money goes straight out the door. It comes in and goes out. So we can't include that really in our math there. So in addition to those items, if our residential disposal costs are projected to be $4,553,944, I propose that the trash fee be reduced to $252, and that's only viable if the board decides tonight to reverse the earlier move to eliminate the trash fee. If the trash fee is rolled into the property tax, the board will need to add 21.53 cents to the tax rate. So to cover the deficit and the trash fee and the property tax rate, the board would need to approve a tax rate of 91.87 cents. That will generate $19,453,028. Alderman Woodcock.
I'm willing to step aside. Looks like Alderman Sprouse has a
Okay.
presentation,
Well,
as long as I'm next.
Do me a favor, hit your button right now, okay? Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that, Alderman Woodcock. Wanted to give you a little idea here, give you pictures worth 1,000 words, so hopefully I'll cut a few out. This is what we're looking at. If you look at the first column as we go from the left to the right, this is what the payments were. Property tax was just property tax last year based upon a tax rate of 75.8 cents. And so you can see, just to give you an idea, at the first column on the left is a $150,000 house. You can see it was paying property tax a little over $250. You go over to the full side, that's actually $1 million house, and you see it's paying a little over, it's paying about 1.8, 1.9, I'm sorry, $1,900 in property taxes. What was proposed to us, in addition to that, we assessed a flat rate tax fee of $293. That tax fee was based upon twice a week backdoor pickup, the old contract. That number is the same regardless of what someone's property value is. And again, this is for residential property. So you see the bar, as the property tax bar gets taller and taller and taller, the red bar stays the same. Now, you often hear people talk about a regressive tax. That is the textbook example of what a regressive tax is. So you see that there are people in a $150,000 house who are pretty much paying as much last year to have their trash picked up as they are for all their city services combined. Next bar. If you look at the lower portion, that is a tax rate of 74.28 cents. 74.28 cents is a tax rate this year that would cover everything that has been approved by this board in the budget. That takes into account the mayor's tax increase. It takes into account covering additional spending approved by this board for things like green space preservation, the raises for the employees, the cost of living increases for employees. All of that is included in that. And so you can see that those two numbers, it's really very, very close. Now, I am going to say in the point of full disclosure, it's hard to compare apples to apples here because something that could be a $300,000 house last year could be a $350,000 house this year. But it's just a way to be able to look at the numbers and to see what's going on. What you see above that, the red portion of the bar, that's a $165 flat rate tax fee. That number is based upon if you take once a week service and the cost that the city is paying for that once a week service and apply it to the same formula that was used last year. A lot of the complaints that we've heard from residents with the reduction of service was that they weren't seeing a reduction in fee. So if we charged $293 flat rate last year, the fair number using the same calculation would be $165. So if we had a tax rate of $74.28 and a trash fee of $165, we could cover that. But we didn't do that last meeting. Here's what we did last meeting. Last meeting, we rolled it in. Every property owner, residential and commercial, would be paying for trash service just like any other city service. And everyone who pays for all city services through their taxes does not receive all city services. Some of them are by choice, some of them are by need, some of them are by circumstance. But that's part of being in a community, is that city services come out of the general fund, everyone pays taxes towards the general fund. That bar, if you notice, there is no trash fee. No resident pays trash fee, no homeowner pays the trash fee. Instead of having a 74.28 cent tax rate, we would have an 88.8 cent tax rate with no trash fee. And as you can see, even though the tax rate is higher, people who live in $150,000 houses, $200,000, all the way up to $450,000 houses would be paying the exact same or less than they would be paying the city if they were paying a separate trash fee. Even when you get up to people in $900,000 houses, $1 million houses, the increase is only a couple of $100s. But what we're seeing is for the vast majority of residents, you're seeing that we are able to have improved city services. We are able to help with roads. We are able to help with preserve green space, make sure that we're able to keep good employees by giving cost of living increases and step increases as well. And we're able to cover all of those things. Now, I will tell you, technically this is a tax increase. Assessments have gone up, the tax rate has gone up. And there will be people who will tell you, you voted for a tax increase if you vote for this plan. But we don't have to worry about how things look. Our responsibility is how things work. And what is the value and the strength of the decisions that we make at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, at the end of our term. I have no problem voting for a higher tax rate that provides the revenue the city needs for essential services and improvements, that reduces the overall cost to the vast majority of our city's residents. This year we've had concerns about reducing trash service without reducing the trash fee. That was the proposal. Cut the service, don't cut the fee. It's a backdoor way to get extra revenue. 2 years before that, it was keep the service the same it was, but increase the fee, the flat rate fee that only homeowners paid for. If we just roll it into the tax rate, we never have to worry about that again. There's never the shell game. It's all a flat tax rate. Every property owner has that one rate applied equally to them. I appreciate your consideration. Also, there's another sheet I passed out. I can give you an electronic copy. I also have a soft copy. To give you this, we may want to get Rod a color printer in next year's budget. But the cheat sheet that I have in front of you is just a graph. If you look across the top, it tells you how much is generated with each penny, 2 cents, 3 cents, up to 10 cents, and then in increments up to $1. And then if you look down, that's on residential property value. So if you wanted to see how much 8 cents collected for the city, you can look at the 8 column, and if you want to see how that affects a $250,000 house, just go down to $250,000, and you'll see how that would affect the tax rate. Thank you.
Alderman Strauss, thank you. Alderman Woodcock, I'm going to come to you in just a second. Tim, I feel like we were a little bit misleading earlier by withdrawing one item but not withdrawing the other. And you chose not to speak in citizens' comments because that. If you want me to come back to you in a few minutes and give you a few minutes to speak, I'm fine doing that. I'm pretty sure the board would agree with that. Okay, I appreciate that. Alderman Woodcock.
Personally, I'd rather just allow him to speak now so that we can keep a smooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have now deferred your opportunity twice. I'll give you one more chance.
Because of your error.
Creating suspense.
So without objection, I'd like to allow the suspension of rules to hear from Tim Altizer. And Tim, will you explain a little bit your background and why you're here without objection? Is everybody okay? Okay.
Everybody okay?
Go ahead.
My name's Tim Altizer.
And we're going to give you 5 minutes.
Okay. I reside at 119 Saranac Drive, but I also am employed by Aladdin Temperite right behind you. With that being said, and reading through this and hearing what Scott just presented, Aladdin has no problem paying an equal tax to the citizens. Okay, some of you guys were here when Aladdin moved to this town. This looks a whole lot like Chicago, I'll tell you that. All right, Chicago goes after taxing businesses, hurting businesses, makes businesses very sour on the community, runs businesses off, okay? Aladdin ended up in Nashville that way. We left Nashville and ended up in Hendersonville that way. So with that being said, we don't mind paying our taxes. We'll pay equal taxes. We pay, and I know the recycler was here earlier, but we pay over $30,000 a year just in garbage pickup. Okay, we pay probably about $50,000 more a year in recycling and taking our product and sending it out of town to have it recycled, repelletized, brought back to Aladdin so we could reuse it. We do that to help society, okay? It is not a cost-positive position for Aladdin, but it is right for the society, okay? So with that, you're putting extra burden on business by trying to tax business at a higher rate for a service that they're not getting, okay? Remember, we pay huge fees to have our garbage picked up. I'm sure other businesses, if they understood this, would be here speaking to the same fact, okay? Thank you. That's all I've got to say.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. I have a few questions that at first may seem odd why I'm asking it, but I just ask the board to stay with me and allow me to ask those questions. It'll make sense in the end. And out of fear of asking a question that was resolved at the last meet, I want everyone to know I spent most of July on an island in Canada with no electricity, no internet, so I have no idea what happened at the last meetings other than what I saw on Facebook, read in the paper, in the minutes. So if I asked a question that was addressed at the last meeting, I do apologize. But if I could, either the Public Works Director or Chairman, where do we stand with the citywide recycling bids?
Chairman Skidmore, you want to do it, or Marshall's here?
But while he's getting up here,
Okay.
we just opened those bids, I think, last week, was it? Or
Thursday.
Well, this past
Thursday.
Thursday. So, oh, it's open this Thursday.
This Thursday.
I apologize. Go ahead, since you're up there.
No,
I'm
it's
making
fine.
a mockery of it.
We had to extend the bid by a week just to answer some questions and clarifications, and so it's scheduled to open 10 o'clock on Tuesday.
Okay.
It's either 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, one of the two times, but Thursday it'll be open.
And it'll close when? 1 month?
No, the bids will be open Thursday.
Oh, I see, I got you, okay.
Yeah.
When do you anticipate finishing the complete process and having a final number of the cost?
We'll know, we'll have a pretty good idea Thursday of what the cost is for all the different options.
Okay. And do you know the total amount of trash that we paid to have disposed of last year?
It's their disposal is running about $1 million.
But how much tonnage? I'm curious if 4.8 million is half, 3/4.
Yeah, I can get those numbers fairly easily. I don't have them right now. But
Yeah, if you could. And the reason I'm asking these questions is, and I've made this public, I'm 100% behind recycling. The only reason I voted to remove the trash service was to add recycling. And now that we're starting to get actual figures of how much we're recycling and a ballpark of what that should translate in a disposal savings, we could use that to help offset some of the costs of the recycling program. So I'd like to know how much that savings would be at the next meeting, if you could, before I make a final decision on the tax rate.
Absolutely.
And then that's all, Marshall. Thank you. My last question is, since this year's been kind of weird with timing, when do we have to have the rate set the last date possible? When is that?
That one? Say it again.
Yeah, I don't care, whoever's got the answer. Wearing blue socks. Go Cats.
We have to have this rate set before we send out notices to the residents of when they're due. So it would have to be, I wouldn't put it off as far as November, but it would have to be before we send any kind of notice to the citizens.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
If I could follow up, if you could tell us the process of printing and, October is usually when that, go ahead.
Right. That is quite a cumbersome process too, because we've got stormwater pamphlets. There's online, how to pay online. We've got vendors we have to pay who are printing all this for us. So we have to let them know what they're putting on those pamphlets as well. That takes a couple weeks just to get together as well. So factoring that in a month is best minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Right, cutting it close, yeah.
Before I close, thank you. This may be one of the only times I'll ever be able to say this on a major issue is I'm almost 100% in agreement with Alderman Sprouse. And I haven't always felt that way about the trash fee, but at the end of the day, it's a service that we have no choice but to pay, and therefore I feel it should be in the tax rate, as opposed to the stormwater fee that, I voted for that to be a separate fee because that way that money is 100% used for stormwater. It doesn't go to the general fund. That could be used to pay for overages for projects that we don't manage well. So overall, I feel it should be in the tax rate. I am concerned about the business community and how it impacts them because I don't see a negative for the citizens. It's going to help those that need the help the most. It'll be the same, if not a savings, for the higher end valued homes. It's the business community that will be taking a hit, and I'm concerned about that, and hopefully we can find a resolution or at least a way to soften that blow. Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Yes, thank you. Robert, Mr. Manning, if you want to come up here, and I was going to go over some numbers with the tax rate, please. Now, what did you have as what the rate would be if we included the full amount of trash in the tax rate?
The full amount of trash only?
Yes.
Okay. I had that would be a 21.53 cent increase.
Well, if you included with the deficit and trash,
Right.
Is that 93 cents?
91.87.
91.87? Okay, let's say 92 cents. So,
92,
okay.
yeah.
And so if it was your scenario without trash but to cover the deficit, is that 70 cents?
Yes, 70.34.
And when we say that, that's per $100 assessed, right?
Correct.
And that's, on commercial property, that's at 40% and residential 25.
Yes,
So
sir.
To pick up where Alderman Woodcock left off, okay, so let's say, and my numbers might be off because I thought it was I thought it was a 92 cent. So the difference basically in with trash and without is 22 cents per $100, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's say if you have a $500,000 piece of commercial property, I'm doing 40% of that, 100. Would that be $440?
Give me one moment. And you had the rate with the trash in it?
I just did it at 22%. That would be the difference in with trash.
22 cents.
22
Yes.
cents, I'm sorry.
22 cents. Yes, $440, you're correct. Excuse
Okay,
me.
and so that's what somebody that owns commercial property at $500,000, that's how much they would pay per year for residential trash, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's tax deductible, isn't it? Can you answer that?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay. And let's say if someone has a $250,000 home, so we're talking about residential here, 25% of that, that's, so somebody with a $250,000 home, they would in essence be paying $137.50 per year for just the trash, if you roll it into the...
That's correct.
Okay. And now if you have, now qualified seniors, if they apply and qualify, they have a tax freeze, right?
That is correct.
So that means they're not going to pay more this year than they did the year before, the dollar amount, right?
Right, well, they wouldn't pay anything.
All right.
I have to. Right, you wouldn't pay anything for trash, right.
Oh, so, but they wouldn't pay more than they did last year,
But
right?
yeah, you're correct.
So in
Excuse me.
essence, they wouldn't pay, if you roll it into the general fund, they would not pay anything for trash pickup, right?
That's right.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'm going to echo what Alderman Woodcock said. I think this does benefit those citizens who need it the most, and that would be the seniors. And really, it helps somebody that owns a $250,000 home. It helps them significantly. And there is concern about business owners. I'm one, and I am concerned about that. However, the savings that people have, a lot of people are going to save a lot of money if we roll it into the general fund and they don't have the separate item of garbage. And these savings, where do you think they're going to spend that money? They're going to go to local businesses. They're going to go to Walmart. They're going to go to restaurants. So with this extra money, they're going to go to local businesses and spend their money. So I think it's going to help. It can help local businesses. So it's not. The businesses will be spending a lot more, but the residents with their savings are more likely than not going to go to local businesses and spend their money. So I'm for this. I was kind of on the fence today thinking about this and trying to decide how I wanted to approach this and maybe do $150 assessed for the trash. But I think I'm fine just going all in and having the trash fee come out of the general fund and increase the taxes. I think it's overall better for all citizens in the city. Thank you very much.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Robert?
Yes.
Okay. So if we propose a 92-cent tax rate, it actually, in essence, will reduce the amount of taxes that people actually pay that live in a $450,000 home or less at the break-even point.
Right.
And I calculated my own based on that information, and my city taxes last year were $758, and doing a 92-cent tax rate on my home, it would be reduced to $681. I did that calculation this afternoon myself, because I wanted to kind of see it for myself. So with the 92-cent rate, even though the rate increases, the actual dollars that the residents pay decreases. That has to be clarified. That will balance our budget?
The 92-cent, yes, that will
Okay,
balance.
so we would not be in a deficit spending budget any longer?
Not if it is set at 92 for the full trash. Yes.
Okay. So we would have a balanced budget, which we haven't had in this city for years. We would not have to borrow any money this year, which we haven't done in a while.
Right.
We would have a positive impact on our general fund as a result of that.
Right.
Would you have any idea what kind of positive impact on our general fund that we would have, which is, ladies and gentlemen, our rainy day fund in case we have an emergency that we have money to spend for those emergencies?
I can have that number
If
for you.
you give me that
Yes,
number,
for-
I mean, not immediately, not now, but that would have a positive, do you agree?
I do,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. And even though the tax rate would be increased by that amount, the dollars that the residents of this city will either, at the worst case scenario, stay the same or be decreased. Plus, they'll be able to deduct the whole tax bill from their tax return if they itemize their taxes.
Yes.
I want to make sure I have it straight in
you're
my
right.
head what the benefits are. Because a couple weeks ago, when we voted on this to include the trash fee in that overall tax rate, I was not in favor of that at the time. But over the last few weeks, I've done more and more research, and I was more concerned about the impact on the small business owner. And then I did more research, and most of the small business owners don't own property. They usually rent. I'm with you, though, Tim.
You gotta remember it's built into a rental.
I understand that. But sometimes what's fair for the masses is not fair for everybody. And like my fellow alderman that's sitting next to me said, the savings, the essential savings that our folks will see in the city, they'll probably spend it in the business. So I tried to weigh the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I came up with that I can support putting the trash fee in the tax rate. And I will support that. I will support a balanced budget. I will support no borrowing. I will also support a positive impact on our general fund. And I think that it's good for the masses, but not everybody. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Mr. Manning,
Yes.
this has been a real difficult decision because all of us are trying to determine what's in the public interest. And I know all of our motives are pure and we're trying to do the right thing by all the people. But I have a few questions that I want to ask because I'm still struggling with how I'm going to go on this issue. Mr. Manning, I asked you to look at 4 scenarios a couple of days ago. Do you have those?
Yes, sir.
Do you have enough for all of the members of Boma to pass out so that they can see the 4 different scenarios?
I have a copier, and I can get one.
Well, maybe we can just go over them.
Okay.
So, under the mayor's proposal, for a balanced budget, we would have to raise the property tax 13%. Is that correct? 12.99.
Yes.
12.99. I want to jump to scenario 3. And this is where it covers waiving all of the trash fee. Last year it was $292. So to waive that as being discussed, as well as the deficit, which is part of the mayor's budget deficit, but also the additional expenditures, about $700,000.
Yes.
That we voted to do.
Correct.
Would require, as you stated, a .9187 tax rate.
That is correct.
And what percentage increase would that be over the rate of, that's the assessor provided?
Right, the certified
tonight?
tax rate.
Yes.
That is a 54.9% increase.
54.9. So Tim mentioned his business pays $30,000 in taxes, so his tax bill would go up.
No, it was $30,000 in haul-off fees, not taxes.
Haul-off fees.
Our property
Okay.
our property is
Tim, if you want to come
valued
up,
at over $8 million.
Tim, if you want to come up here so we can have you on mic and ask some other questions if you want to.
That's fine. I'm just
Okay.
trying to understand the impact.
Well, our most current assessment was $8,172,000 for the property.
The assessment.
The assessment.
But you don't know what the tax.
I don't know
was.
what your tax rate's going to be.
But anyway, so under this scenario, thank you, Tim, that's all. Under this scenario, the tax rate would go up 55%. The good news is for residents, though, is by waiving the trash fees, some will even get a reduction in their bill. Most, I think that's an accurate statement, most, and I've got some statistics to back that up. I also asked you a different scenario that I have talked about, in trying to balance the public interest, both business and residential, where only residents would pay the trash collection and the tipping fee, and I think the number there is 202, so it would drop from 292 to 202, and then cover the deficit as we have to balance the budget. What percent increase would that? And that, again, that is with residents paying $202, which is just the trash and the tipping fee. What percentage would that be?
That'd be a 25% increase.
Okay. So, and in your assumption, what are you assuming on the hotel motel tax as far as covering the general fund? How much of the hotel motel tax do we need to make sure covers general fund expenditures and not new expenditures?
In each of these scenarios, that is assuming $200,000 of the hotel motel is I wouldn't say covering, but it is currently in our general fund balance calculations.
Okay, so for those calculations to be accurate, we need to make sure that at least $200,000 covers existing expenses in the budget.
Yes, that's a correct statement.
Okay. Okay, so what I tried to do is I tried to understand how this affects the average residential and commercial customer in Hendersonville. I don't think an average statistical number is meaningful because of the outliners. So what I did, I looked at the median. The median, and the median, as everyone knows, it's halfway between the extremes. It's not an average, but halfway between. The median for residential property taxpayers in Hendersonville is $275 a year. That's just the tax. That's not the trash bill. $275 a year is what the median, and for commercial, the median property tax is $900. So I used those two numbers in looking at how this would affect the median customer, the average person in Hendersonville, both business and residential. I've rounded up because I'm not good in math. The $375 to $500, and the $900 to $1,000. So I'm using, for my calculations, $500 for the residential median and $1,000 for the business. The residential impact, if you look at $500 plus $292 equals $792. If you eliminate the trash bill of $292, what we paid last year, their rate would be $760, which is a savings of $32. That's the median resident taxpayer in Hendersonville. Now, how about the commercial impact? The last property tax that a commercial business paid, assuming $1,000, which is the median, and no trash bill. They didn't receive trash, and they didn't pay a trash bill. So $1,000. So how would they be impacted based upon going to a 0.91 tax rate? Their bill would go from $1,000. You would add approximately $550, so they would go from $1,000 to $1,550. The net effect would be an increase of $550 a year over the whole year. So in my trying to understand how this would affect the average residential and commercial, these are the numbers that I used. And, I don't want to do anything to impact, especially mom and pop businesses in Hendersonville. I've asked some financial people, some in the recruiting business, how would this affect being able to recruit? I don't think that it would affect that much. The person that I talked to said that they don't really ask about the tax. They've already done that research. So I've struggled with this, and I will vote based on what I think is in the best interest. And hopefully, I'm reminded of just a quick story. They asked once Harry Truman how you make decisions, and Harry Truman said, well, I get all of the the experts' opinions, I read everything, I go home and I study over it, I sleep over it, and the next day I make a decision. They said, well, what if the decision is wrong? He said, then I make another decision. So, we're faced with an issue that we have to have. I agree with the Vice Mayor, we have to have a balanced budget, and I'm going to vote for a balanced budget. So I'll be interested to hear if there's any other discussions on this. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Manning.
Okay.
So some of my comments and questions are going to be repetitive, but I just want to make sure that we're being thorough, and I'm kind of approaching this possible tax discussion twofold. One is first covering the cost of disposal, and then secondly, as Alderman Roberson just said, a balanced budget. So when we talk about the overall cost of disposal, Robert, can you explain to me, as we did our discussions, what exactly is covered in the 22 cents tax increase, which would cover garbage, all the different line items, because it's different than the past, and I just want to make sure that I'm not misspeaking, but this came from the mayor, is that correct, Mayor Clary?
I'm sorry. I think I heard your question. It's really four primary things, all residential. The tipping fee, the residential garbage pickup, tree limbs, and I'm forgetting one thing.
I've got you.
Well, thank you. If you don't
Recycling.
mind going
That's it, recycling.
through the whole list
Yeah.
so that we're all on the same page of exactly what we are choosing to cover in the overall disposal fee.
Sure, so, we have, salaries.
Yep.
Of disposal folks. We have, disposal collection service. We have brush disposal, excuse me. I'm gonna bring this up a little higher. Benefits for those employees as well. And, pilot recycling, forest retreat, or, excuse me, that was moved out, scratch that. Municipal bins and roll-off, and, hauling and tipping.
Okay. And retirement expense.
Yes, excuse me.
So the overall, so what is the overall estimated cost of all that?
Alderman Petrelli, can you bring your mic down a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
The overall cost of all that?
Overall for disposal.
Yes, so that is $4,443,079.
And then for us to at least cover the cost of disposal is 22 cents, 0.22.
Correct.
Okay. And so this is a discussion that I had with several Ward 1 citizens today, because when they heard this, they were concerned. So with the 0.22, we're going to take out the flat fee. And we've heard several examples tonight from Vice Mayor Cunningham, from Alderman Roberson. So minimum, just to cover disposal, is 0.22.
Yes.
And at 0.22, everyone should come under on their taxes. It shouldn't be as much as we paid last year.
Right, that's right.
Okay, because there's a slight savings there. So then any numbers that we're talking above that would go towards a balanced budget. So what I really wanted to get down was that just to cover the cost of disposal is 22 cents minimum, if we
That's right.
take that route and don't do the fee. Thank you, Mr. Manning.
You're very welcome.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. I'm going to speak here again because we have a couple people in queue that are ready for round two. A couple things I want to clarify, that my proposal to raise property tax 13% came with a proposal to lower the garbage fee by 14%. If you didn't do both, the other one wasn't necessary. The other thing I want to mention is that the three budgets that I proposed, all of them have been balanced. My proposals have been, so we didn't have to go through all this to get to a balanced budget. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Sprouse. I need to propose an amendment. this needs to be first reading of ordinance 2019-24, which I explained to all of y'all. And so I'm going to make that amendment.
I'll
this time.
second that amendment.
A motion and a second. Is anybody wishing to speak on that? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Alderman, passed unanimously. Alderman Sprouse, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I really like how positive the direction this conversation is going. We're caring about general fund, we're caring about green space, we're caring about infrastructure, we're caring about essential services, we're caring about taking care and keeping good, experienced employees. And we have to make sure we do one thing. I'm afraid that we may end up in a fundamental shift in management, the direction we're going. So part of this is setting the expectations. I'm going to get a little grandfatherly on you, but some of y'all know Jim Young, and we have been benefiting for decades for the years of service that Jim Young had and the culture he has helped create as the finance director when he served here. Because we've often talked years about having deficit budgets, and really what happened was, for years and years and years, and Mark can attest to this, Mr. Brown, we would significantly overestimate expenses and severely underestimate revenues. But through very, very strict management of expenses, not spending money just because it was appropriated, but really doing what we needed, we typically came in every year under budget for expenses and over budget for estimated revenues. So even though we started the year with a paper deficit, we ended the year with a surplus. That's how we were able to maintain and build the general fund. We don't need to get into a shift that starts thinking that just because we have a balanced budget, that money is appropriated, that we spend it. I was shocked my first end of a budget year as an alderman, because my experience in business has been that customers would call you the last week, the last month of their budget year and say, I have $20,000 to spend, $100,000 to spend, $500,000 to spend. If we don't spend it, we'll lose it in next year's budget. That didn't happen in Hendersonville. We would have department heads who would come back and almost compete and brag and say, I'm turning in $100,000, I'm turning in $50,000, I'm at 98% of budget, I'm at 94% of budget. We're starting to see where in the last year or two, when we're getting to the end of the budget year, we're getting to that scramble. And we're getting away from the culture that Jim Young helped create that says, if I give you $1 to spend and you're able to do the job with 92 cents and you give me 8 cents back, I'm not going to give you just 92 cents. I'm going to trust you with $1 again. And if you tell me you need $1.10, I'm going to give you $1.10. So we need to be very careful. I'm going to ask the Finance Committee to work on that as we get in that direction to make sure, because if we continue that practice, we will have a balanced budget, but at the end of the year, we will not have a surplus to apply to the general fund. So that's a culture we just need to look at. Regarding how you have to deal with services for residents, for business, for one type of business versus another type of business, one resident versus another resident, there are just some things that we cannot do completely fairly, but we can try to be just. For an example, in personnel, when we do holidays and how you give people days off and give them comp time, we can never treat a police officer and a firefighter exactly the same way. There's not one policy that fits both those people, because one person works an 8-hour shift, the other one works a 24-hour shift every third day. And it's hard to balance those out. So what we try to do is just try to be fair and look and do what's well. It may not be absolutely just for commercial properties to have to pay for residential trash service. But for years, residential property owners have paid for deer carcass removal. So if a deer gets hit up here on Indian Lake Boulevard, I don't know, a mile from any residential property owners pay for that. The same thing with landfill expenses. For decades, the city of Hendersonville was responsible for the Resource Authority for a landfill that every property owner in Hendersonville was supposed to use, but only residential property owners have been paying for that through the trash fee. So there's a little back and forth. Tim, I was there when you were making the decision and coming to Hendersonville, and that was a huge moment for us, significant moment for your business, and it's tough to know. I know that we're looking at probably a $8,000 expense onto your business. But in looking, as was said earlier, when we're looking at outliers, that's $8-9 million worth of commercial property. And when we look at the scheme of it, how much of that is effect upon the business? I want to go back to 2003, which is the last time we had this very substantial conversation. When we were trying to deal with this issue, and we came up with this compromise we had right now where we split it kind of halfway, where part of it's in the tax rate, part of it's in the general fund. The mayor was then alderman. He was part of saying, let's make it all part of the tax. All part of a fee. It's a higher fee. Then Alderman Skidmore was on the side of make it all into tax rate, make it a lower fee. And we came up with a compromise in the middle. But here's some numbers I want to tell you about the conversation and why I leaned a little bit towards then Alderman Clary's position, but I supported the compromise because of conversations we were having in 2003. We were talking at that time about bringing more businesses to Hendersonville and diversifying the commercial base, increasing the sales tax revenue, increasing the tax base. And the promises that we started making as the development went on was we can start shifting prices, expenses to businesses. Because if we don't, it's going to become prohibitively expensive to live in Hendersonville. When you rely solely on residential property taxes and those for fees, you create a bedroom community. It's the most expensive place to live. So we started making promises as we were rezoning and developing Hendersonville. When we were having those discussions, the break-even point was not $450,000 for the house. The break-even point was about $175,000 for a house. Just think about that shift in 16 years. And that's because we've brought in more businesses. It's spreading that across more businesses. And the nature of the businesses have changed. We couldn't have done this in 2003 because we didn't have outside revenue coming in. We did our shopping at Rivergate. No one came to Hendersonville to shop. People in Hendersonville didn't come to Hendersonville to shop. So this is an opportunity that while we are placing additional burden upon businesses, where they're collecting it is coming from Hendersonville residents and coming from residents outside of Hendersonville who come here to conduct business. So ultimately that's going to help. I'm concerned at the other end about the mom and pops, but guess what? Most of the mom and pop businesses live in Hendersonville, and their employees live in Hendersonville. So they're going to realize the benefit of the residential reduction, and that's going to help with retention of employees and recruitment of employees, and the bottom line when you consider the property. I appreciate this conversation. I think it's been very substantial. I appreciate the detail that everyone has been putting in this, and thank you.
Alderman Strauss, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason we're talking about this a lot and we're giving it a lot of thought and even sleeping on it is that this is about stewardship. And it's extremely important when we start thinking about the taxpayers' money. So related to that, I would be very happy to see us build up our rainy day fund, or what we call our general fund. Last year, I know for sure that we at times got so low that we could not pay some of our vendors. Sometimes we'll take what's called a tax anticipation note, and sometimes we called the vendor and just asked them, can you give us another 30 days? Around November, October, November, the general fund was just getting so low. So as a steward of the taxpayers' money, I feel like it's wise to have some money for rainy days. And I like being able to pay our businesses on time, and I appreciate their generosity, those that allowed us an extra 30 days, but I just feel like that's a much better position of stewardship. My empathy, and it pains me to hear from Mr. Altizer about Aladdin and also just the commercial burden that you'd be taking on. I don't know if it's any consolation, but hopefully there would be at least some consolation in that your employees who hopefully live here and you who live here, you would have maybe a little bit lower taxes on your property. Hopefully those commercial businesses that sell to our residents would in fact see an increase in their business because the taxpayers are being able to keep more of their own money. But it does pain me, I promise you, Tim, and I'm sorry about that. That's the only thing that I see is really a negative. Fees, bottom line to me, are a shell game. It's like when you are going to go buy a ticket and then, you know, it's a loss leader. You get it's $100 for this flight to Florida, and then when you get there, there are all these fees that tacked on, and next thing you know, it's doubled in cost. So I think of it as a little bit of a shell game, and I really am proud of this board that we're even considering this, and I think that it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Tim, a couple times you've been mentioned, and I failed to remind aldermen that they need to address the chair, not somebody else, and certainly not somebody in the audience. And I apologize for failing to do that. Tim, a couple times I think some people have asked some questions. Do you want to address any of those? And you're absolutely welcome to say no thanks.
I believe I sort of did it from the floor, so
Okay.
sorry about breaking protocol.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. You may have just addressed what I was going to ask. So most people may not know this, but Tim is a member of the Planning Commission, and so is Barry Hardwick, who's in the audience. Both are strong advocates for our business community. Personally, I would like to ask them a couple questions. I know they have no obligation to, but if the board is willing to give me maybe 5 minutes to do that, and they're willing, I would like to. If not, I'll do it privately.
Do you want to add in there, Kathleen, excuse me, the president of the
If
Chamber of Commerce?
if she would.
Okay, and again, no
like to.
obligation at all. But without objection, we'll suspend the rules to hear from, already heard from Tim, from Barry Hardwick and Kathleen, if they would like to.
Yeah, and I have questions for Barry and Tim, so Kathleen can speak by all
Hold on,
means.
let me look this direction and see if there's any objection. I don't anticipate there is any.
And I agree, and that's why I was asking for permission, and hopefully it'll be for the benefit of the board.
If we have objection, we'll take a vote on suspending the rules.
If there's an objection, I'll just talk to him privately, but it'd be questions for everyone.
Okay. Do you want to have both of them come up, or do you just want to? And again, you have no obligation to do that, and feel free to say no thanks and wait till 2 weeks.
If Barry and Tim could both, and then they can, some questions will be more for one or the other, and they can jump in. So first, we keep mentioning that we're doing this for the benefit of the residents and their trash. Personally, I feel that's not the case, that we would not be having this discussion if it wasn't for the appreciation of property values. So with that being said, if this money was going to triple our paving budget versus taking trash from the residents, would there still be an issue as a business owner, manager, advocate for the business community?
And Barry, if you answer that, if you could identify yourself and sort of what your background is.
I am Barry Hardwick. I live at 202 Applewood Valley Drive. I am a commercial real estate agent. I don't do anything residential. I strictly represent businesses and tenants who are leasing office and retail space here in Hendersonville, and I'm also a member of the Chamber Board.
Would you like to answer that question?
So the question is would I be opposed if this money were going strictly to road improvements?
Yes, I keep hearing from the business community. I don't know if this was an email or Facebook post or what, but like, I shouldn't have to pay for the citizens' trash. Like, well, that's not. That's kind of the indirect. Like, what's really happening is your business appreciated in value, so you should owe more taxes because your value is higher. And the board is choosing to allocate that funds in a different manner than in previous years. So is it that you don't agree that you should pay more because your business appreciated, or because it's going towards trash services for residents and not the businesses?
I can speak to me as a resident, as a citizen. I feel like trash collection is a fee that I need to pay the same way I pay my utility bill, the same way that I pay any other bill that I have. And for me to have to pay $300, $200, whatever the amount is just a fee that I have to pay like I pay any other bill. I do support a tax increase to pay for roads because we need that in this city desperately. And as a member of the chamber, I want to support businesses. That's what we're here to do. And I think putting an extra burden on business, I think somebody here said that it was going to cost Tim an extra $7,500 to $8,000 a year in taxes. And just doing a quick calculation, I believe that is correct. I also would say that most commercial landowners that I know here, their valuation is $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. It's not $500,000. You can't find hardly a $500,000 business. It was also said that most small businesses rent and don't pay taxes. Most small businesses do pay taxes on top of their base rent.
Thank you. Tim, would you like to answer that as well?
Well, to answer your question, if you'll remember, my first statements were, we, as a company, don't mind paying the taxes we're supposed to pay, and equal taxes, okay? So yes, we're fine with paying our taxes. We have no problem with that. And if our taxes are raised, we're fine with those raises as long as it's in a fair and equitable manner. As it goes back to the roadways, yes, I would be I'm an advocate of that. I would support that. I think that's a good thing for this community. Most of the residents here, and I know you guys hear about it all the time, complain about the roads. Okay, so we and the business would have no problem in supporting that. As it relates to covering the fees of the residents here on their garbage pickup and saying, basically, well, sorry guys, we just want y'all to chip in and cover their fees so we can lower their prices. Again, I point out, we're paying huge fees, and I say very huge fees, to have our garbage hauled off. Okay, we're a large manufacturer. A lot of you have said, well, they'll shop, they'll buy the stuff that you make. Nobody here buys the stuff that we make. So there is nothing that you said in that conversation that will benefit Aladdin. Okay, it is a complete detriment to our company. So everything you add here is just more cost to us. All of you are talking about cost. You're all talking about how to be good stewards of this cost and controlling these costs. That's what we're tasked with, is controlling those same costs and being good stewards of the money of the people who own Aladdin and have invested in the company. Okay, so I think I answered your questions thoroughly. Me, as a personal landowner living here in Hendersonville, I expect to pay my fees just like he does. I expect to pay all of my utilities, all of my costs. Those are my responsibility. I get up every day to go to work to do that.
If we put our tax rate at the same rate as last year, so in other words, your increase to your tax bill would be 100% due to appreciation.
Yes.
You would be okay with that?
I would be okay with that. And if you're asking, to dedicate fees that are going to improve the community, as in roads, we use those roads. Okay? Our trucks coming in and out use those roads. We understand that. Okay? And we understand growth comes at some cost.
How many employees do you have?
210, 225, somewhere in that range.
And out of your facility, what's the gross sales or revenue?
We're grossing, I would prefer not to answer that publicly because it's a privately held company. Okay? And the family does not publish it.
I respect that. You said 7,500 would be detrimental to the company. That just what kind of scared me.
Yeah, it's another $7,500. Just to give you an idea, this year alone, we experienced over 10% increases just in trucking costs. Mm-hmm. We understand this too. Okay, we're fighting the same fights you fight daily.
And you had 210 employees?
200, yeah, call it 210 on average. It'll fluctuate.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I had.
Anybody else?
We've got Alderman Edwards in the queue. I'm going to put you off for a second in case somebody else has questions for these two gentlemen. Okay, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you
We
answering
appreciate
questions
you.
very much. Alderman Edwards.
Yes, sir. Robert, what did you say that the amount is, the cents for covering the deficit and the full garbage fee? 92.
It's 91.87, so 92 has been the roundup number, colloquially used.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess I would move to amend the ordinance to have it instead of 85.8 cents to do it 91.87 cents as the tax rate.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
And a second.
91.87 cents.
Alderman Edwards, you still have the floor.
That's all I have.
Okay.
I think I've already said my piece on that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak on the amendment? Alderman Robertson.
Question, Alderman Edwards, all you're wanting to do, this motion would be to set the tax rate, is that correct?
Correct.
You're not dealing with the rate design?
Well, it's just, the rate is to cover the deficit as well as full trash, because understand the trash fee is now being paid out of the general fund, and that would continue, and the tax rate would cover that and not operate at a deficit.
So by voting for your motion, would we be making a decision that we want to roll the trash fee into the general fund?
Well, that's a good question, because aren't the taxes already being, the garbage already being paid out of the general fund?
Essentially, there would be no reason to have a garbage fee.
Yeah.
We would cover the anticipated, the necessary money of $19,453,028 that we need in the general fund from property tax revenue.
So it is an inclusive motion?
Correct. Well, all my motion is to amend the ordinance currently under consideration from 85.8 cents to 91.87 cents, which would include
Covering the fee?
Covering everything, deficit and fee.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes. One last comment.
There we go.
So, Mayor, this is the first reading, so at the next meeting, there'll be a public hearing so that we'll be able to allow the public to comment on this decision.
Yes.
And then another vote will be held at that time.
Yes.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the amendment to 91.87 cents, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Brown?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Petrelli?
No.
Robertson?
No.
Skidmore? Sprouse?
Yes.
Waters?
No.
Woodcock?
Yes.
Clary?
No. That passes 7-4. Now we're on the main motion, which has been amended. And the main motion is first reading of ordinance 2019-24, an ordinance fixing the tax rate, the rate of taxation for the city as amended at 91.87 cents. Alderman Woodcock.
I'm going to vote no, and I want to explain why. I want to get the recycling numbers before I commit to a tax rate. I want that to be public, so I don't get bashed for voting for that amendment and then voting no for this. Thanks.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. All those in favor of the main motion, which has been amended to 91.87 cents, please signify by saying aye when Kate calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Brown? Cunningham?
Aye.
Edwards?
Aye.
Hayes?
Aye.
Petrelli?
No.
Robertson? Skidmore? Sprouse? Waters?
No.
Woodcock? Clary?
No. That passes 6-5. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-26. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 20, Chapter 5, regarding parks and recreation regulations. Alderman Brown. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2019-26, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2019-29. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 1, regarding alcoholic beverages. Alderman Sprouse? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2019-29, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2019-21. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 15, Chapter 6, regarding parking. Alderman Brown?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll speak to that.
Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. It was reported last meeting, and we discussed this, and bring it before you tonight, that we are amending our or codes that if you're a commercial lawnmower or a service that parks in front of someone's home on a city street, that you are going to ask you to put out an orange cone in front, an orange cone in the back of your vehicle, for mowing equipment or whatever that may be, until what time you're done, just for safety issues for citizens at low light time and on curves and hills. That's what it is.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
I have a question, Alderman Brown. I support this. I think it's a public safety issue, especially in neighborhoods. I'm wondering what kind of notice or warnings are we going to give before we start writing tickets?
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
Commander Hobsbawm is developing just a little flyer to hand out. We will also put it on Channel 3. Hopefully our newspapers will put that out as well. Police officers that will be patrolling during the day and early afternoon, if they see a commercial mower out, don't have cones, they'll stop and say, hey, this is for you. And we talked about that tonight, and we will probably do that through the entire fall and give them until next spring to officially get on board. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Anything else, Alderman Robertson? Thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. I also support this, but I would be curious if we could add just a couple of clarifying words. And I'll make the motion, and if there's a good reason not to add them, I'll withdraw. But it seemed like it would clear up a lot of confusion if we just added commercial vehicles with trailers. And that would be my motion.
Where do you want to, Alderman, we have a motion and a second. Alderman Woodcock, where should we put that?
So 15608, safety cones required, period, commercial vehicles with trailers.
I'm good with that.
Alderman Brown, you want to speak on that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Did you catch that? Okay, yeah, did we get a second on that? I'm sorry. Alderman Woodcock?
Are you wanting?
Hold on. So, did we get a second on Alderman Woodcock's?
Are you wanting to cover cars with or without?
Hold on one second.
trailer?
I want to make sure that we have a second on your motion to amend. Okay, so we're good. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and discuss and explain and possibly amend your amendment? Go ahead.
If someone is inclined to this cover just vehicles, then they can speak up and I may amend if that's appropriate.
Alderman Brown, you want to try
Am
that?
I still on deck?
Yeah, go ahead.
In deck? The whole purpose of this was basically commercial mowers with trailers. And the reason this came about is not only a couple other people, but myself almost run up into, that's probably really bad English, ran into the back of some commercial folks on Lake Terrace. One was on Lake Terrace and one was on Cherokee. And one was a low-light situation, and one wasn't a low-light, but he was down a hill and around a curve. Just very dangerous. So that's where we came up with the idea to do that. And so if it's a commercial painter and he's parked on the street with a 12-foot covered trailer, anything that's similar to that.
Yeah.
And I know Mr. Bradley has looked at it.
So there, Jonathan made a great point. There's actually in my neighborhood flatbed trucks that basically have the trailer attached to the truck. So I'll amend my motion to read commercial vehicles with or without trailers.
Okay. Who do we have on the second for that?
That'll work.
Alderman Edwards, are you okay with that? Okay. Well, first I need a second on him changing his motion. And you were the one who seconded that
Yes,
motion.
I may not, because I may ask him to modify
Okay, I'll come back to you in just a second. Alderman Hayes, did you second that motion? Okay. Alderman Woodcock, do you want to explain it anymore?
Shouldn't have to.
So I'm going to go to Alderman Edwards to talk specifically about this motion to amend. Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I just wonder why, do we have to limit it to commercial vehicles? I think any vehicles with trailers parked on the side of the road probably should have that. How would you,
Yeah,
you
so
want to address that, commercial vehicles and
I
any?
thought about that, and I was going to vote against it because it didn't clarify. If we do not make it clearly commercial, then we're opening ourselves up to all kinds of situations where a friend is picking me up at my house with a boat, and he's outside my house for 15 minutes while I'm eating a sandwich and gets a ticket. That's just going to open up a floodgate of situations of what about this, what about that, what's temporary, is that an hour, is it 2 hours? So, we're trying to get the commercial vehicles, and this is going to cover 90% of what's happening, in my opinion.
You should make your friend wait while you're eating a sandwich,
Yeah.
first off. Alderman Edwards.
Hey, if I'm on your boat, you'll wait for me.
Alderman Edwards, you still have the floor.
I'll support his proposed amendment.
Alderman Hayes.
I don't have any comment.
Okay. Alderman Brown, I've got you lit up about the amendment.
I'm good with the amendment.
Okay. Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you. I just would want to point out that I'm for this. I still have reservations about not including, I guess, I don't know what you would call them, commercial or residential tags, because I know in my district, there are several that I have seen personally that have the trailers, and I've looked at their tags, and they're not commercial tags, where they are mowing and things like that, and they don't have, so I'm for that. And even if that did not pass, because I know that we've been talking about it tonight, I would ask that by next year or something like that, to maybe ask the Public Safety Committee to investigate that ordinance a little further, to see if there's anything we can come back maybe on an amendment that would include those kind of those vehicles, because I've seen plenty of them in my district where they, it's mom and pop and they don't have commercial tags on their trucks, but they do have their motor, their lawn mower mowing, their business, their equipment. Yes, sir. And so it's something that needs to be done, but I would just ask, and I'll vote on it in second reading. This is not the height of lawn mowing season at this point. It's in August, hopefully, but the way the heat's going, who knows what the lawn mowing business is going to be like. But I would say within next year, if y'all could just take a look at that and see if there's some way that we can include those type of situations too. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we're back on the main motion as amendment. This is first reading of ordinance 2019-31. All those in favor of ordinance 2019-31 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have item H, which has been withdrawn, and then we have resolution 2019-44. This is a resolution authorizing the transfer of $150,000 from the 2018-2019 disposal service budget, which is line 110-40048, to the 2019-2020 asset 7,000 and up line item, which is line number 110-40033-645. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2019-44, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Next, we have resolution 2019-47. This is a resolution to apply for a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee Foundation Healthy Places Program grant. And thank you, Alderman Robertson. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2019-47, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have resolution 2019-49. This is a resolution accepting the dedication of the completed streets in Autumn Creek Phase 7 inside our city limits. Alderman Woodcott. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2019-49, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we have resolution 2019-50. This is a resolution accepting the dedication of completed streets in Hunt Club phases 6 and 7 inside the city limits. Alderman Woodcott. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2019-50, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay. Next, we have item M, and that is ordinance 2019-35. That is something that's handed to you toward the beginning of the meeting. This is an ordinance amending the ordinance 2019-22 and appropriating $25,000 for the police department to purchase replacement license plate recognition camera. Alderman Edwards, is that you?
I think Alderman Brown would.
Alderman Brown? We have a motion and a second. Alderman Brown, do you wish to speak on it?
No, sir.
Okay, Alderman Edwards?
I'm just gonna, I would ask to amend it to include Alderman Petrelli and me as sponsors for
Okay.
this ordinance, or
Okay.
resolution,
Okay.
ordinance.
We have a motion to add the sponsor, add two names of sponsorship, and that is Alderman Edwards and Alderman Petrelli. Need a second for that.
I'll second.
We have a second from Alderman Skidmore. All those in favor of adding sponsors, Alderman Edwards and Alderman Petrelli, excuse me, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Alderman Edwards, anything else?
Nothing.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes, Alderman Brown, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm all in favor of these cameras. They've been a great, I think, way to reduce crime in our city. But I have a question. It looks like that we've had these recognition cameras, but they're failing. Is there a natural life for these cameras that they have to be replaced ever so often? Or do we know when they were installed and how long they've?
That man right back there that's coming to the podium can give you the times and dates on that.
Thank
Commander
you.
Hobbsmeyer. But yes, to answer your question, yes, but he's got the real answer. I don't know.
Thank you, Commander Harsner. Go ahead.
So to answer your question, the lifespan is depending upon the hardware and the manufacturer. The one that we're replacing is failing was the original equipment, the first license plate reader that went in Hendersonville back in, if memory serves me right, 2012 or 13.
Okay.
So as technology improves, life expectancy can improve. I don't think there's a set number to give you an answer to that question. It depends on, again, the manufacturer, the quality of that. This company that we purchased from is no longer in business. We cannot repair these. It's in a failing state and needs to be replaced. So
Thank you.
we hope to get longevity out of the equipment we purchase, and we look for quality vendors and quality craftsmanship in the products we purchase.
Thank you. Alderman Brown, I just want to say that as your committee looks at these, I'm in favor if we need more in the city, because I do think that they're a great way to reduce crime. So I would support any efforts to expand the use of these cameras where the police department feels that they're warranted. With that, I intend to support the motion, of course.
Thank you. How many do we have now, Paul?
So currently, we have one location installed. That was the second one that's still up and running. The first one now is failing, and we have two on the books from last year's budget that are being implemented as we speak, with two more on the table for this year's budget, and then the Parks Initiative as well.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm not going to get into providing information on where these cameras are located. Some of us know. We have talked to TDOT about two of the cameras that Commander Harsner talked about. There's a convoluted reason that TDOT will not allow these in some places that we would like them to be. It is a very convoluted reason. But we have a lot at stake when we're working with TDOT. I'm going to continue to work with them to try to reconsider the basis for their reasoning, because it's just off. It's just off. And so hopefully the ones that we have that are ready for us, we can get those up in locations that will have the most benefit to us. I try to say that as gingerly as possible. So, okay.
Good job.
All those in favor of ordinance 2019-35, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have item A, other agenda items. First one is a vote on reappointment of Dale Dool to serve on Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals. Alderman Waters? We have a motion. And a second. Alderman Brown, do you wish to speak on this?
I do.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to Alderman Waters. Alderman Waters, anything on this?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. As I do in any time that we reappoint or we appoint someone, especially if we reappoint, I go back and look at track records and talk to department heads that service those committees and whatever. And I'm just, I'm not very happy with this gentleman's track record. And I'll just say, out of the last 14 meetings, that, and this committee is a pretty important one, the Zoning Appeals Board. That's where people come before us and ask us to make decisions or undo decisions maybe that planning has made or or something else. He's been absent 8 of those 14 meetings and only present 6. So it'd be very hard for me to support that reappointment. He's a 6-year member, but I just don't think the numbers are there. If the numbers were flipped, I would still question it a bit, so. But his attendance is less than it is more, so. Therefore, I'll be voting no.
Alderman Brown, thank you. All those in favor of reappointing Dale Dool to the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no.
No.
I guess we have to call the roll.
Brown?
No.
Cunningham?
No.
Edwards?
Yes.
Hayes?
No.
Petrelli?
Oh.
Oh.
She's gone.
Robertson? Skidmore? Sprouse? Waters? Woodcock?
He's here.
Clary?
Aye.
6 to 4.
That passes 6-4. Next, we have a vote on the appointment of Tyrone J. to serve on the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals. Alderman Cunningham?
So moved.
Alderman Edwards? All those in favor of Tyrone J. to serve on the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have a vote on Donald Fritz to serve on the Regional Board of Zoning Appeals. I so move. We have a second. All those in favor of Donald Fritz to serve on the Regional Board of Zoning Appeals, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Have I forgotten anything? Have I forgotten anything? Yes. I don't think that's, we're gonna adjourn first, and if you want to make a comment, that's. You can't say that. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor? We're adjourned.